All right, so I'll start from the top again. Greetings and salutations. It is I, El Jefe, your loyal and committed final expense agent trainer extraordinaire. Thank you for joining me on yet another amazing broadcast where we do role playing and script development and put you on the spot so that you can be better at the game of final expense. So if this is your first training, let me kind of go over what to expect. So in general, these scripting, role-playing things are a brand new development. Really started, I think, end of last year into this year now. And the reason I put them together at the encouragement of several agents to extend the quality of training. And what we do is look at different parts of the sales presentation prospecting process for final expense. And we put you on the spot to see if you know what to do. Reason we do this is it gives you a, how do you say, a synthetic but close to reality type of training experience where you can test your knowledge and you can receive some constructive feedback. I call on people randomly on the spot. I think it's a good thing. It helps everybody develop. And we kind of review as we go along the basics of this, whatever the topic is. So we break up. We don't do the whole presentation. We just do parts of it and then focus training on that. So today, last week we talked about closing. This week we're going to talk about opening the sales presentation, specifically in the first presentation, the first step of the sales presentation process, which involves rapport building and the introduction. Basically setting the table with your prospects to describe who you are, what you do and why it matters, and to develop the beginnings of trust and likability. So this training should be a little shorter than others because there's not a lot to go over here. This is probably, it's important to do this effectively, but it's the least important out of all of the training that I do. But we still need to study it. So without further ado, here's what we're going to do to start. Sorry, I had somebody knocking at the door, a little baby. Here's what we're going to do to start. So I'm going to call on someone, and we're going to act as if we're opening a sales presentation. So I'm going to play prospect. You're going to play agent. And what I want to hear from you is how you would handle the opening to the rapport building part of the sales presentation. So since Frank was here first, Frank, hey, are you there?
Okay. Give me one moment and I'll verify that for you. Do you mind if I place you on one last hold, sir?
I guess not. I'll call on Frank later. Let's see here. I'm trying to call on people I haven't called on before. Mauro, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You want to play rapport building with me?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Hold on one second. I got to yell at the wife here. Sorry about that. Knocking the door down. It's hard to concentrate and focus on this. So, okay. All right.
No problem.
So you just start like you're coming in the door and I'm going to answer it and just kind of lead me through what happens.
All right, great. Thanks, Mr. Jones. So would you like to sit at the kitchen table or the dining room?
Yeah, let's sit. Kitchen table's fine. Why don't you come over here? Let me push all my crap off the table.
It's no problem.
A nice seat here.
It's no problem. Thanks. So how are you feeling today? Pretty good?
Well, you had to ask. You know, I've got like 5 different, chronic pain, and the allergies are bad, and the bills are high.
Don't worry about it. Chronic pain isn't a problem for me with the carriers that I use.
Yeah, right.
Don't worry about it.
Sure.
So what I like to do first before I go into anything, as soon as I sit down with someone, I always like to show my license. My name is Mauro IUL. I've been licensed for about 1.5 years now, and here's my state license. Issued by the Department of Insurance. You can verify that if you want to. And what makes me different is that I'm a broker. Now, why should you care about that? You should care about that because I have access to all of these carriers that you see on this little sheet here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about 40 or 50 different carriers, but my main ones are on the other side. It's about 6 or 7 of them. So if I can't find a situation that fits these 6 or 7 people, I flip over to the other side, and it's definitely going to be able to find one out of these 40 or 50. So basically, I shop around all the main carriers that do well by their clients to make sure that you're in the best situation and get the best bang for your buck. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Great. And so that's one thing. I'm sure you've seen agents who are, working for one company and they just, they're only able to show people that one company. So even if it's the highest price, that's all they got. That's all they can show you. So that's
Sure.
why I like to, represent multiple
So
companies.
hey, I just want to let you know, I just so you know, I'm not going to buy today. I'm not really, I got to think about these things. I just want to tell you that.
Oh yeah, sure. That's no problem. Like I said, I'm just here to show you. Like I said at the door, I'm just here to show you the information, and then I'll be on my way. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Great. Yeah. So my first question to you is this. Oh, that's kind of the end of it. That's kind of
Okay. You had me on my toes there. Question. I'm waiting. All right.
No,
So,
I'm
okay,
glad
off
you
script
did.
here. So let's go through this and basically cover some of the basics. So notice when Morrow came in, what did he do? He gave the first order, right? He took control of the sales call. It is so vital from the very beginning of the sales presentation for you to be in control. If you're not in control, well, you're not in control and you probably won't make the sale. So what did Morrow do? Do you remember what you did?
Yeah. Do you want to sit in the kitchen or the dining room?
Right. Which is an unoffensive but leading question, right?
Yeah.
You're giving them an option, but you're giving the option. You know what I mean? You're in control.
Yep.
A lot of people like to even just go so far as saying, hey, do you mind if we sit at the kitchen table to review this? It's a little easier for me. A lot of people like that because a lot of business decisions for families are made at the table. So just be prepared for that. It's always fine to give a choice. I always kind of do what Morrow does. I don't care if I'm at the table or the couch. I make sales equivalently. But if you want to direct them to the table, that's cool. So there's that kind of element to it. But more importantly is that you're setting the pacing as you being in control. Now, rapport building. So like, notice that Morrow didn't spend, 10, 15, 20 minutes going into a litany of rapport building techniques. I am of the persuasion, this is how I teach sales, is that rapport, first of all, is not as important as trust. And second of all, rapport is not an event. It is a process. It starts in the beginning for sure. But a lot of what rapport is not verbal. It's nonverbal. It's making eye contact. It's asking good questions. And a lot of that, especially the questioning, like Maura was getting to, is started in the next phase of the sales call. So with that said, I don't think you have to become best friends with your clients. You just need to be friendly. That's the idea. And one of the best ways to overcome the initial resistance or to get somebody to have enough rapport for you, the best litmus test is to make them laugh. Okay. If you can get somebody to smile, and that's always an indication they feel good around you, they're comfortable, and you can progress and continue. So if you're looking for some kind of objective measurement, when they laugh, and usually their body relaxes, right? You don't laugh around people who you're unsure of. At least I don't. But if they are, that's a good sign. That's enough. You're at the point where you can progress. Okay, so we covered that. Mauro, do you have any questions for me on that section or anything you want to cover? There's some more stuff here that you did, but I'm going to cover once we get someone else on the phone line too.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'm just kind of wondering how much of that introductory stuff, like how much about me should I go into to build just a slight level of trust? You know, like how much, like, so I've heard before on some other interviews that you've done, some guys would say, you know, according to the Department of Insurance guidelines of what a broker is, they have to be, you know, they have to do right by the client. Blah, blah. So it's like there's a lot of stuff that I've been thinking about adding in there.
Sure.
I have a lot of experience, but how much of that is helpful or to the point where it's at diminishing returns?
Right. Because sometimes you'll get to a point where you get diminishing returns fairly quickly, and then you'll look at different things you can insert. And the question becomes, yeah, it doesn't hurt. It probably helps, but it doesn't hurt. But is that enough reason why to include it if you've already done some other, introductory things that have increased your credibility, right?
Yeah.
So I'll address that because I think it's a good point. I think you obviously should introduce yourself, first name, last name, tell them a little bit about your business background. At this point in the game, our clients don't want a thesis or, some long drawn out explanation of how great we are. They just want to know, are we credible and why should I listen in the first place? So in order to answer that, what I teach is, my name is David Duford, and I'm a licensed life insurance agent as I'm handing them the copy of your license, right? So you hand them a copy of your license, preferably the original laminated, just to retain the legitimacy value of it. If it's just a piece of paper run through a Xerox machine, it doesn't look as good as the actual one you get sent or mailed from the state. But when you it's better than nothing, but I prefer the original possible. And as you're handing that over, it's say, I'm a licensed life insurance. You can see I've been licensed since 2011 in the life and health insurance business. What makes me, and you did this too, and we're going to cover some of that in a minute. What makes me different is that I specialize in working with people on a fixed income that are looking for final expense plans. That means I can shop around to try to find you the best price, the best coverage, and because I have access to multiple carriers. Now, some of you may be wondering, you're telling me Mauro has 47 carriers because you said you had 40 on one side and 7 on the other. And I'll address that too. That's a good little sales tool. We say access because access means we can get it, right? Whereas if we say we are contracted with 40 companies, it's obviously not true. So if you use the word access, it demonstrates our capabilities, okay, in a straightforward way. And think about it. If we, for some reason, can't find coverage for our clients at whatever our first options are, we can always get contracted with others. That is something we do. So, other point here. This is something I don't teach, but I probably should. Part of it is because I think the biggest component that I'm focused on is teaching you that you are the driver to the sale. People buy because of you, first and foremost. Companies are really an afterthought. People take recommendations from people they trust. And in that hierarchy, it's first always in low ticket and high ticket sales with the person who's the representative. Then after that, it's the company. So one thing you can do that Mauro basically described is you can create a PowerPoint. You can go on PowerPoint, take logos for each of the companies that you represent. Logos, not names, logos. Remember, people remember pictures better than they remember names. So the Mutual of Omaha logo, they're going to say, oh yeah, I remember that on Wild Kingdom back in the 30s or whatever. Some old people out there. You know what I mean, though. People are picture oriented. So line them up. Put all the ones down that you have access to, and then also the ones you're appointed with. Or you can just say, I have access to all these and be done with it. It doesn't matter, because when you show them that piece of paper, they're going to say immediately there's going to be a brand recognition with some or all of those companies or a portion of them. And that's going to elevate your ability to seem trustworthy, right? If people see companies they're familiar with and you're a stranger, well, that makes it a little less concerning, right? So I think that's a good thing. And you would hand over that PowerPoint sheet as you were describing, I represent, I help people in final expenses. This is the companies I represent or have access to representing, and blah, 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 blah. So I think that's something worth throwing out there. Probably going to use that in my updated training I'm scheduled to do sometime next couple of months. More, any last questions here? Does that kind of answer your question?
No, yeah, that's pretty much all I was wondering. Just how much detail to go into.
Okay, cool. All right, man, thank you. All right, let me call on somebody new here. Hey, Giovanni, you there? Giovanni?
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, man, how you doing?
Oh, fantastic.
Hey, you want to play role play with me here? Kind of review some of the same things we did with Moro?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let me turn this phone off real quick. Sorry. All right. Okay. So I'm going to play prospect. You're going to play agent. And what I want to hear is basically how you would open up a sales call. And we'll kind of stop where Maro did and kind of review what you did. Oh,
will this be a sales call or like an in-home visit?
Yeah, in-home visit. Yeah, you're seeing the client for the first time. Let's say you've preset the appointment already. Okay, so they're expecting you to come over, and you're just opening the door as I come in.
All right.
Hold on 1 second, Giovanni. Scott, sorry about that. I see your question here. Yes. Email me a reminder, Scott. I'll get you the full presentation, or at least a script or something, or a breakdown. I'll show you where it's at. So, okay, go ahead, Giovanni. I'm sorry.
David, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Oh, living the dream. You know how that is.
Perfect.
All right. Well, where would you like to sit today? You want to sit in the kitchen or you want to sit in the dining area?
Yeah, let's sit in the dining area. The kitchen table's dirty and sticky with drinks.
Oh, I know all about that. Yeah. All right. So a little bit about myself. Well, first things first, let me show you who I am. I am state insured by the state of Georgia. So here's my card. And this just to let you know that I am from the state. Okay. All right. How's that look to you? Does that look all right?
Oh, you're an insurance agent. Okay. Well, hey,
Yes.
I'm not interested in buying anything. I just wanted to get this information free.
I definitely can understand that. You know, that's the power of information. So it helps us make the best decisions. Okay, so let's just sit down. We're going to go over a couple different things. All right? Sound good?
Okay.
All right. So the reason that a little bit about myself, the reason I got into this field is because my first degree is in mortuary science. So I have literally seen when families cannot afford the basics of a funeral. And it's gut-wrenching. It honestly is. And I originally got my degree because I wanted to help out grieving families. All right. I've been with the state of Georgia insurance for about a year now. And that's the main reason why I started to do this, so I can help families and I can help better prepare families. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your thoughts and concerns as to how come you sent in this card?
Okay. So off script here. Can I provide a little bit of constructive criticism for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. No, and again, look, this is on the spot. I understand it may have been different with the client. You didn't introduce yourself to me in the sense of your name. Okay. So you've showed me your license. You've done some right things, but I didn't get your full name.
Got it.
If I was prospect and you didn't tell me who you were, it may not be a big deal because you could read it on the license, but it could be a big deal. Why isn't he giving me my name?
Yeah, that's part of the nonverbal rapport in that sense. It could Yeah, just raise a concern.
Right. You handled the knee-jerk objection well. I did this with Moro too. Sometimes in your presentation, you're going to be in a position to where you give a recommend, or you are going through your script, and it just dawns on them that they're going to be sold, and they flip out and they're scared, and it's like a lizard brain reaction, and so they say, I don't want to buy, even though you're not like trying to sell them anything on the spot right now. They just have to say that in order to relieve themselves of the stress. Okay. And the way Giovanni addressed it, he didn't belabor the point. He didn't, change up his direction in the sales presentation. He just addressed it, said, that's fine, it's no big deal, and continued on. So whenever you hear these knee-jerk objections, remember, those are designed to derail you from the process that best suits closing prospects. If you begin to answer knee-jerk objections at the beginning of the sales call, you're going to be in trouble. Okay. You're going to be in a position to where you're going to start thinking, you just get off kilter. But you have to understand that they're really like, what you hear is not what you should be thinking. It is just a stress relief valve that they've got to let it out. And once they know, it's a little bit easier to deal with.
Definitely.
Rapport building. So when you're out with prospects, how much are you asking them about their grandkids, favorite hobbies, where they used to work, that kind of thing?
Are you specifically asking me, David?
Yeah. Off script.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course.
Okay. Well, honestly, David, I've never actually been on an appointment yet.
Okay, that's fine.
I've just been studying your videos, and I have a lot of previous experience of going to in-home appointments based off of selling home improvement projects.
Okay.
So that's why I'm able to. It's a very familiar thing for me.
Sure. So when you're running, let's say, your home improvement prospects in the past, what was your rapport building like? How much did you talk about non-sales stuff at the beginning before you got down to business?
Well, honestly, I almost would put on a timer. I mean, yeah, you want to be in and out in like 20, 30 minutes. Let's just get to the point. If we're talking about the prices of tea in China, we're just derailed completely.
Sure.
Hey, how are you doing today? Okay, you're doing fantastic. All right, great. Okay, I see you're a Georgia Tech fan. I went to UGA. That would be really where we're at.
Okay. Just some nice, civil back and forth conversation. That's kind of what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, I think I love what you said in your training video about there was like a mural to past rappers and singers, and I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was really funny, and that was cool.
I was like, wow, man, you got Tupac and Biggie Smalls up here and Marvin Gaye.
Very unexpected. Awesome. It was a very unexpected story, so I thought that was cool.
Yeah, so on that note, anytime I walk in and see something unusual, I want to note it, okay? Because people do things, they frame stuff on the wall, they keep things, or they watch certain shows for reasons, right? Because that's how they want it. Well, I'm interested in what people like or want to do or is of importance to them. So what I like doing is if I walk in, and this is something you can't really prepare well for, right? Like it's hard to train this in a synthetic environment like this, because you just walk in and you train yourself to look around like a detective and you say, oh, I see, looks like you used to be a personal trainer. You got some stuff on the wall. What's the story there? It's just, you have to train yourself to identify that stuff fast, and don't be afraid to ask about it. Hey, what's the story about that? So, hey, that's
agreed,
cool.
100%, David. The big thing I noticed when I rode along with Scott Bradley some weeks back, his ability to come in and really, it was like it's an unsaid way he took charge of the situation, but he also made finite details of the house, and I mean, just stuff that I was not noticing that he would comment on, and he'd build more rapport. But I mean, he still kept it quick.
Yeah. I know Scott doesn't belabor the point. That's for sure. He'll get to it and not spend 30 minutes socializing.
Yeah, I mean, we literally sealed a deal in, I think, like walking in, walking out, like 35 minutes.
Yeah.
At one point. It was awesome.
Now, just recall, I mean, goes for everybody here. Like, Scott's earned the ability to do that with 30 years probably, Scott, of selling, annuities and other products. So as you do your sales and get comfortable with this process, like, what you'll notice is there's patterns, there's similarities between prospects. There's a pace to it that you can kind of understand and even predict to a certain extent. So it becomes easier to kind of on the spot, once you've run a bunch of presentations, to just train yourself to look around, and you don't even think about it. It just happens because you've thought about it at an earlier point, and then it just becomes a natural part of the process. So, that's all something we need to work on and develop. And this is why I'm a big advocate of focusing on activity, not results, because the more activity you do, the more you do of something, you're going to get better. Okay. It's activity that teaches you these things that not a script does. So it's really important to, get out there and see the people. And yeah, you're going to screw up and mess up, and that's fine. But you're going to learn things that are not necessarily even taught, even things I may take for granted, that you'll kind of discover on your own. Let's see here. Do you have any questions, Giovanni? Anything?
Honestly, no. I just, been going over all the training stuff on your site. So it's really just, I'll have to condense it down. I guess my only question, maybe to save on time, by chance, do you have any of you have all the videos, but have you ever just taken just the audio out of the video? Because, for example, when I've done other sales, I would remove the audio from training videos, and then I'd listen to it in my car on the way to appointments or wherever I was going, and that helped a lot too.
Are you able to put your phone up and then just hit the video play and just listen to it as if it were a podcast? Or do you have to actually be like, I don't know what your situation is. I'm just curious if you've not tried that yet.
You mean in my car while I'm driving?
That's what you're saying, right? Play the audio while you're on the way. Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, well, I'll figure it out. Usually there's like a converter, and you can convert video to just grab the audio out of it. And it's very helpful because you can just listen to it at any time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is, if you've got a smartphone and you go to my website, like when I would drive between appointments, selling in the field too, I just pull up my phone, listen to some YouTube videos, and obviously I can't watch it, but at least I get to hear it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, if you can do that, that's equivalent.
Okay, yeah.
Just don't get killed trying to, play videos and stuff. But yeah, you're welcome with any of my videos. If you go, and this goes for all of you, if you want to put it in an audio, go Google search, YouTube to audio conversion. There's tons of free software. And then if you just right click on the video and click copy URL and put it in there, it should convert it to an audio file that you can download to your phone. So you don't have to have internet access. Just download it, queue it up in your playlist, and have at it.
Sounds good.
All right, Giovanni, thank you, man. I'm going to call on Mauro here. Hey, what's up? I saw you raise your hand here a few minutes ago.
Yeah, so 2 quick questions about what you were going over. So in relation to, some of the like Facebook and telemarketing leads have a hobby on them.
Yes.
Would it be advisable to go into that? Because I know some people's hobbies can kind of go into a 30 or 60 minute kind of, tangent. So should I ask them about that, or should I just kind of not even address it as part of the rapport building? That's my first question.
Question to you is, do you think on par, even though you may go down the weeds with people, do you think that you'll create a better connection by asking them about a hobby or not?
Well, I don't know enough about them, about this market yet, but I can kind of, I feel like it might be one or the other. Maybe they'll say, this stranger doesn't care about me, he's being disingenuous, or this guy wants to be my best friend. So I don't know I don't know enough about this market to know which one of those two they would actually
Sure.
towards.
So my thoughts are this. everybody loves talking about themselves, right? If given the opportunity. And I would argue that our senior population rarely gets the opportunity to do much talking about themselves. There was a study I saw a couple of weeks ago that said like the average senior over 70 talks like, or it was like 10 or 20% of the seniors talk to only one person a week. Now think about that. We talk to, I talk to dozens of people every day. But these people don't have social interaction. They're shut-ins in many cases. And that's a lot of our market, and at least in the final expense side of the world. Mm-hmm. So when you have a conversation with them, it's a big deal in a lot of cases. They won't go out and say, hey, I haven't talked to anybody in a week or two. But they will appreciate somebody paying attention. This kind of brings up what Giovanni said regarding Scott. Part of this is attention to detail, right? And that will impress everybody if you seem to recall things that are important. So if you are saying, oh yeah, it's funny, as I'm coming in here, I remember you said that your favorite hobby was Harleys. So what do you got, a Harley, or are you a motorcycle rider or something? And the odds are, even if they don't go into huge detail about it, they'll appreciate the fact that you recognize that. But many people are passionate about their hobbies. They'll just belabor the point. And yeah, you got to be good at corralling them in, but don't be afraid of or of going that way, because it's good conversation. It creates a connection. And again, a lot of people just don't get asked, what do you like? Or what do you think about that? It just doesn't happen a lot with this crowd. So the more personal you can make it, the better. That just, again, there's an upper limit to it, right? We're not there to talk about Harleys. We're there to talk about burial insurance.
Right. So my second question kind of goes on that as well. So you were talking about, Scott is in and out in 35 minutes because he's had the experience to do that. So as a new agent, we should be trying to get in and out as fast as we can too. So what's a kind of a fair expectation for how long we should, like, if at some point we're in the house too long? So is it
yes
60 minutes? Is it 45 minutes? Like, should we try to make it 45 minutes or less, or is there kind of a estimation?
Let me answer it a couple of different ways. Number one, no matter the length of time you stayed, you have been there too long if they're an unqualified prospect. Okay. So if it takes me 10 minutes to realize they don't have two pennies to rub together, even though they want the insurance, but they can't afford it, any more time I spend beyond that is a waste. That is too much time. Okay. So it's specific to the ability of where you are in the sales process and qualifying them largely. You don't want to spend time with people who are unqualified. So any extra time beyond finding that out is a waste. Now, let's say you find somebody who is qualified. They are interested. They got need, want, bank, health, and budget. They are surprised to see that AARP cancels at 80 and there's Colonial Penn has a 2-year wait. And they like what you have to say about the coverage. If you're a brand new agent, I want you to worry less about time right out the gate. Don't worry about how long it takes. When you're booking appointments, book them every hour and a half. That's a good starting point to give you enough leeway and wiggle room. The reason why, and this is something that if you do a ride along with me, I didn't recognize this, but I always make sure it's clear to my agents. I'm basically a walking textbook for final expense. I know this market. I've done more than 3,000 presentations. I've seen everything for the most part. And when I see conditions and I see issues, I know exactly who to think for. But the only way I've gotten to that is because I didn't know it before, and then I had to close the gap with knowledge and research and reviewing applications. I can remember very early on when, I was qualifying somebody had a stroke in the last year or two. I was looking at American Amicable. I was looking at probably Texas Life at the time, maybe Oxford or even Transamerica. I remember doing that for like 10 minutes, really just putting the pencil to paper, in a sense, to try to find the best deal for my client. So it's going to take you longer to do this in the beginning. But as you get experience, it will shorten down. So I would say once you're, it's just going to depend on the person. Once you feel comfortable, it's a subjective thing. You should be trying to aim for hour-long presentations. And then once you feel good about that, 45-minute presentations. And a lot of that time saved will come from just understanding what sales processes matter the most and not squandering like unnecessary time with like rapport, like more people as new agents do more rapport than experienced agents because they feel like they have to get a connection. And yes, up to a point that's true, but beyond that is waste of time. So as you get comfortable and competent, you realize that you don't need that as much. And so it shortens naturally. So just kind of give yourself that process. As you get comfortable, you'll know when you're comfortable. Shorten it down. Ask yourself, well, how can I do an appointment every hour? Then how can I do an appointment every 45 minutes? It can be done. I've done it. I've taught other agents to do it too. So
Gotcha.
Okay.
Understood.
Certainly. All right, Scott, you're on, man. What's up? Hello, Scott.
Can you hear me?
I can now. What's going on?
Cool. Not much. So, Mr. Duford, thank you so much for seeing me today. And the reason I'm here is because you talked to my office manager, Kathy, on the phone and set up a good time for you. And I won't take too much of your time, but wanted to come by and give you the information you asked for.
Okay.
Okay. So I assume you
what information are you talking about? I don't remember.
Well, we originally had this card here, and you asked for information about burial insurance and final expense insurance, and I'd just like to give you all the information you'd asked for. Won't take up too much of your time. You mind if we sit down over here and chat about it for a few minutes?
Yeah, sure. It was interesting. I was reading that card before it's sent out, and it said something about free insurance. So is this something that the state's doing now? Like, how does this work?
No. And I'm sorry that you misread that. When it says free on there, it basically is this memorial guide that I like to hand you out. And it's really, really handy. That helps you plan for the future, which everybody needs to take advantage of. And I recommend you read it during your time. But I do have a question for you. I noticed all the books behind you there, and there's one thing I've got to ask you about. All right. And that is, you've got a Canadian flag. It's sitting right behind you there. What's the story on the Canadian flag?
Oh, my family is, from Canada, many generations back. We used to own property up there. It's my favorite place to visit. In fact, every July, I shut everything down and go up there, kind of like a sabbatical. Take my family up there. It's so much fun. We just have so much history there that it's a real special place for us.
Well, that's cool. I bet you understand hockey pretty good bit. Down here in South Carolina, we don't know too much about hockey, but I bet you know a little bit about it. Anyway, the reason I wanted to talk with you about it, I wanted to, first of all, give you a copy of my license here, and I just show you, and I hand you my license. You take a look at it. It's laminated, and you hand it back, and I put it in my bag. But most especially, the reason I wanted to say to you is I'm not like most insurance agents you've ever talked to. Most insurance agents represent only one or maybe two companies. I represent quite a few. As a matter of fact, there's a computer program I'm going to pull up here in a few minutes. I'm going to punch your name and your basically your birthday in there, and it's going to shoot out a list of everything that you'll qualify for every insurance company across the board. So in other words, we're going to pick and choose what is best for you, and I'll let you look at it and you decide as we go forward. And I get right to the point when I'm talking to folks, and I mean to ask you this question. When you filled out this card and mailed it back, what were your thoughts and concerns when you mailed that back to me?
Great. Perfect. So, Scott, you want to kind of describe why you handled the rapport building in the way that you did? Curious to hear kind of what your thoughts are and how you did it.
I have no idea what you're asking me about. It's just I'm talking to the people. I'm kind of trying to be real friendly and open and noticing things as I walk in. It doesn't matter what their hobby is. I'm going to talk to them. I believe that they're very interested, and this is old school now, folks. They're very interested in a radio station. They all are into talk radio, and that radio station is called WIIFM. In other words, what's in it for me? They want you to know that you care about them before they care that you know anything about insurance or anything about final expense or burial policies or anything at all. If you're not there to help them, if you're not helped there to address their situation, then what good does it do talking to them?
Right.
And yeah, Giovanni, that's true. We did make that call in about 35 minutes, but I thought it was a pretty good call. Now, one of the things that you'll notice, I don't like dogs that much, but that dog was coming around me all the time. And if Giovanni will remember, I picked that dog up and put it on my lap when I'm talking to the lady. And that went a long ways, okay? So Giovanni can go for that. Yes, it was about 35 minutes in there, and we wrote up the policy and we moved on to the next one because people want to chat. They want to know that you're not just there. They want to know that you care a little bit, but you can take it to the next level and you can go too far. I've had some people that I've sat there for an hour and a half, but it was because I wanted to sit there an hour and a half. I wanted because I was truly interested in what they were telling me. So, you know, you just got to play it by ear.
Yeah, this is one of those parts of the sales process that's it's very nebulous, right? You know, like it's not scripted in the traditional sense like the rest of the sales presentation. You have to really think on your feet when you're dealing with people, and you have to develop an instinct about how much rapport building you need to do versus what's necessary. And the only way to do that is just do a bunch of presentations. Lead with the idea, like you said, what's in it for me is perfect. You want them to know that you care and have an interest. And you notice, though, I will say this, Scott, you know, when you were doing the rapport building, you obviously pointed out something of interest that's unique amongst the other stuff behind me. I responded to it. And then what did you do?
I asked you, I brought up another little thing that you had mentioned, I think.
Oh yeah, like hockey. And then, but after that, what did you do? You got right on with the sales presentation, right?
I just went right into it for the reason that I'm there. I'm not there to talk about hockey. I'm not there to talk about Canada. I'm there specifically because you asked for information to be sent to you. And I got a bunch of people I got to see, and my time is very valuable.
Right.
So, and I do it in a nice way. I do it in a very nice way, but they do know that I'm there to give them the information that they want, move on to the next one. I'm not being bossy, but at the same time, I take control of the situation.
Right. Yeah.
Where we were, I'm in control at all times. They aren't. And I'd like to give an example of what happened yesterday, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yesterday, I walked in, literally within 3 minutes, we were talking about insurance, and he told me that he had a policy written by Americo 6 months prior, never gotten the policy, was very unhappy, didn't know, and he wouldn't go any further. I pulled up the numbers, showed it to him within 7 minutes. I was saying to him, he said, well, you'll come back and see me, and I turned around to him and I said, no, sir, I won't. I said, I drove 100 miles to come see you, and my time is very valuable. Now, here are the prices. The prices ain't going to change between today and tomorrow. Either you want the coverage or you don't want the coverage, and we'll move on from there. He said, well, I'll think about it, and I'll call you. And I said, well, you can call all you want. I'm not driving another 100 miles to come down here to see you for one policy. And he kind of was taken back a little bit, and I said, I don't mean that rude. I said, but hey, it ain't going to change from one day to the other. And I said, and going forth, well, I left. And sure enough, I got 10 miles down the road, and what did he do? He called and he said, get back up here and write that thing. Exactly what happened.
You have to care, but not that much, you know?
That's right. And you got to act like this is not your last dollar, and I don't have commission breath.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And that's hard for us to do that are new. You know, it's like you want to, and you should try to squeeze as much as you can out of every lead that you get, but you have to approach certain circumstances with a line in the sand, right? You know, this is how I do things. You know, I'm very busy. That can make all the difference to someone who otherwise is just kind of tire kicking, maybe halfway interested, 5 out of 10 type of thing, can push them along the line. So that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Scott, thank you very much. I'm going to put you back on mute. Mention a couple of things here. If you guys got questions, this is a good time to ask them. We're kind of winding down the training here. I think we've hit on most of the main things. If anybody wants to go for a round, please speak up, chat, unmute yourself. We can do a round of rapport building too. A couple of things I wanted to mention here. Dogs and TVs, all right? So I was thinking about how I could role play this. I was going to play a YouTube video and then turn up the speaker, and then you hear that. And what I was trying to replicate is, what do you do when you walk into a client's home and the TV is blaring because they can't hear anything, and you're trying to give a presentation? They're kind of like, TV's here, you're over here, and they're like, doing that whole bit. What do? You just tell them to turn the damn thing off, right? But of course, nice. You want to say, hey, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to scream at you. Do you mind muting the TV? That's a perfect excuse. It makes it sound good. Like, I'm sorry for what I may do, so can you mute it or turn it off? You want their undivided attention, okay? So you don't want the TV to be a distraction. And for a lot of people, it's background noise. But if the background, it's not always background noise. If there's something of interest that comes up, it can completely distract your attention. So always ask for them to shut it off. Dogs, cats. Heard your cat in the background there, Scott. What do you do about dogs? This is something that I never minded dogs on sales calls for the most part, unless they were barkers, right? Unless they just would not shut up. And there's dogs like that. But otherwise, I always greeted the dogs, pet the dogs, because if you've got animals, you probably are an animal person. So it's good to like greet the dog and show that you're not like, hateful towards animals or whatever. But if a dog's big and jumps on you, don't be, timid. Ask, hey, do you mind if we put this dog up just so we can get it out of the way, since it seems to be jumping all over me? Most people will agree. Oh, I thought of another thing here. What do you do when somebody smokes? I'm sure a lot of you, I'm surprised I don't have COPD. For all the years I've been selling final expenses, hazards to our health. What do you do when somebody smokes? Because I've been in houses where like it's literally a cloud of tobacco or smoke. And Giovanni is right. You always let the client smoke. You're right. It is their house. Or smoke one with them. Yeah, you could do that. That's a good idea too. If you smoke, you might as well smoke together, right? Here's the thing. I believe even if you're a lot, so there's people who don't mind it. I'm in that camp. I don't smoke. I grew up with smokers. I'm kind of used to it. It's no big deal. Someone's smoking. But there's some of you out there that probably are completely disgusted by it. But here's what happens. If you ask someone to not smoke, smoking is like, how can I put this? It's a stress relief, right? So when people smoke and they're talking about dying, they want to smoke. You want them to relax with you, okay? So I think by asking them not to smoke, you're going to turn you're not facilitating the sales process as well as you could. So I always, and I have people ask me, do you mind if I smoke? Yeah, that's fine. I want them because they're going to be relaxed. They're going to be more receptive. They're not going to be strung out talking about something stressful. Drinking is to me. Right. Exactly. Don't get drunk on sales calls. That, on the other hand, kind of want to avoid. So, yes, the smoking thing to me is just, it's just some of the things I accepted. I've come home so many times at night, like I smell like an ashtray, and sometimes I worry. I'm going into people's houses that don't smoke. Do I smell like an ashtray? I drink before I get there. There you go. you know, it's again, it's part of the business. If you're worried, you know, wear a jacket, keep a pair of a shirt ready to change, have some Febreze you can blast on yourself. But I don't think it's a big deal with these people. Like, they're not going to be offended if you smell like smoke. A lot of them smoke, or a lot of them know people who smoke. It ain't no big deal. All right, last call for questions. Anybody would like to comment or make some last pointers before we wrap this up? Give you a few seconds to jump in, unmute yourself, or chat something in the box below. Morrow, okay. Can you go into depth a little more about commission breath and how to avoid it? Well, so the short answer is see more people. See 15 people a week. What Scott is describing, this is an interesting phenomenon. Scott, I'll pop you on here, Scott. What Scott is describing here, and I'll give you my perception and let Scott jump on. What Scott is describing, this care but not that much, results from having too many people to see. And I was thinking about doing a video on YouTube where I talk about risk management. I was talking to an agent about this the other day. The most effective way to handle risk is by going all in. It seems when we're tepid about moving forward that the risks are the highest. When it comes to lead generation, if you've got an overwhelming number of people to see, there is a sense of confidence that comes from it. When you've got a ton of prospects to go visit to, everything matters less. So you're not strung out if a person says no to you or gives you resistance points. And you're willing to say, hey, that's cool. You know, I just can't come back, like Scott said. And the irony is, if you do takeaways like that, which are easier to do when you've got activity in your favor, when you do takeaways like that, it actually pulls people towards you faster and more effectively. People see that you're not desperate and are therefore attracted to buy more from you. So it has this kind of, you know, odd effect where you'll actually do more business because of it. Okay, Scott, I'm going to let you jump on and feel free to explain what you meant by commission breath, and then we'll wrap it up. Uh-oh. You there, Scott?
I'm here.
Okay, go for it. We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
What I mean by commission breath is this, guys, and it's very, very difficult to do. I have never, ever in my life, while I'm doing a case, figured out how much I'm going to make. I've never acted like I need money. I've never acted like I don't need money. The point I'm getting at is I just look at it that if I make a sale, wonderful, I'm helping out the individual, I'm helping them. When I get down the road, I'll go, oh man, now what? And David will attest to this, because I'll ask him all the time, what commission level am I at and where I'm living, because I've never memorized them and I've never gone forth and looked at that. There are a lot of people that get really hung up on what level of commission they're at to write a product in a various program. I have no clue as to what rates I'm at or what commissions at, because I don't put that as part of the sales process. I've done a paradigm shift specifically to avoid making the sale because I need to earn some money. That's not even part of my thought process, and that's why I go about it. It's not that I'm better than anybody else. It's not going forth, but I know if I'm thinking about making money, I guarantee you I ain't gonna make no money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of paradoxical in the sense that we obviously are in this business to make money. You know, we're not running a charity here. But on the other hand, if you can demonstrate to your clients that you are thinking of their best interest, even when it doesn't affect you, and you are seeing enough people, you're staying active enough, it has an attraction effect. And it's easier to let go when there's more people to see that are going to be qualified.
And if you write one annuity a month, it'll make up for what you haven't done.
You'll tell us more about that when our little get together on February 21st, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for being on. I'll be around. I've got a couple of podcasts to do today. If you need anything, text me. I'll try to get you in between. After 4 o'clock, I should be free for an hour or two. So thank you for joining. I hope you got some value out of this, and I'll put the recording of this on the GroupMe. So check it out there if you haven't, and you guys have a good weekend. See ya.